Welcome to the Real Generation Gap. I'm Rudy Ruiz.
And I am Fred Satilli.
And today we're going to be discussing Young Guns from 1988. So this film follows a group of young regulators, some gunmen that get deputized and are on a quest for revenge when their mentor gets murdered by the evil Jack Palance. Or Jack Palance. This movie,
Jack Palance is always the evil.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. He's even like in some Sergio Corbucci movies and stuff.
Did you see the one where he's Mr. Hyde, where he's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
No,
and he's Mr. Hyde. Oh, you got to see him as Mr.
That.
Hyde. That's a recommendation right there. Right. Believe me.
I could totally see him doing something like that. He just has a look, you know. He's got such a look and a voice. But yeah, so this movie stars Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Charlie Sheen, Dermot Mulroney, and Casey Siemaszko. I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was actually suggested to us by Larison Many Goats. He sent a message on Instagram. He was actually a guest on the show way early on when you guys reviewed Killers of the Flower Moon.
Right.
So he was a guest. So thank you, Larison, for suggesting this.
Yeah.
And that was before my time.
What a great callback.
Yeah. He's been very supportive, which is nice. So thanks for suggesting this. And this was my first time watching this movie. When I was, I know. I could have sworn that I had seen it before.
I watched it about 2 months ago.
Oh, really?
I watched it again, this week. Because you watch it differently when you're going to criticize or
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. It was like I knew everything. Like I almost like say the words along with them, and
Yeah, I saw bits of it growing up, like enough to where I felt like I had seen it before. But when I put it on, I realized I've never actually watched the movie. So it was my first viewing, and yeah, man. I mean, this is I think up there with some of the best westerns. Like it's just a kick-ass movie. I love all these characters and just their whole vibe. I never knew that the very famous 90s hip hop song, right? Regulate by Warren G and Nate Dogg, that the sample at the opening of that song is from this movie. So that got me really excited. I'm like, oh, this is where that's from. Awesome.
We work for Mr. Tunstall as regulators. We regulate any stealing of his property. We're damn good, too. Mr. Tunstall's got a soft spot for runaways, derelicts, vagrant types. But you can't be any geek off the street. Gotta be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean. Earn your keep. Go on, get! Not that I'm a pistolier or a knifesmith like that greaser Chavez over there. I'm a pugilist. But then I ain't expecting you to know the explanation of that word. Hog boy!
Shit, you don't even know why I'm here.
Sure I do. You're a runaway, derelict, scud-bottom vagrant, ain't you, like the rest of us? Footpad, maybe, petty thief, rob a bank, kill somebody. Kill somebody.
I really dug it for the most part. There are some bits where I felt it got a little slow and whatnot, but for the most part, I think it's pretty action heavy. And yeah, I do like the characters. There was definitely some surprises in there in terms of who makes it, doesn't make it, partway through the movie and whatnot. But yeah, so I imagine you must be a fan of this if you watched it recently.
See, there are moments that are really campy, and so for that reason, it doesn't hold up for me as authentic.
Yeah.
It's and these guys, I mean, anything with Charlie Sheen, I picture him as Wild Thing with the baseball. You know that movie?
Oh, Major League?
Yeah, something like that, right? So it's hard for me to see Charlie Sheen and sort of not laugh. And then I know Emilio is his brother.
Yeah.
Right? So it's well, here they are. I am a fan of Kiefer Sutherland. I think he's done some cool stuff. His dad had bad politics, but was also a really good actor. But I don't think I liked it as much as you, even though I've seen it 4 or 5 times now. It's a lot. It's a long movie. It's got a lot of parts and characters, and it's complex twists and turns and everything. Lou Diamond Phillips, his character is interesting. What he wants to do, and I love it where they tell him that we're your pals. This is your tribe now. His Indian tribe. He's a Native American, and the army wiped out his whole family. And he hates, that, and he wants to to move out to California or something and separate himself from the group. And they said, no, you're a regulator. Now, the reason they're called regulators is because there was a British man named John Tunstall, and he found these ne'er-do-well, rough guys that couldn't read, and they were just ragged guys out in the West, just, scratching a living out of the dirt, more or less, and he cultivated them. He says, you're going to learn to read, you're going to be polite, you're going to have table manners, you're still going to be killers. He goes, what's going to happen is you're going to regulate the action that I get involved in. So I'm a gentleman, and I'm going to act like a gentleman. And when a moment comes where I can't be a gentleman, you will regulate that. And they know it. So one of them is Billy the Kid, for God's sake, And he says, yeah, no, we'll shoot everybody. Don't worry about it. But we'll do it while reciting poetry now. He's gentrifying these guys. But the big mistake that Jack Palance makes is early on in the movie, he kills him, John Tunstall. And these boys are not having it because this is the first time that they really felt family.
Yeah.
And that this is somebody, people want to be a good person. They want to have good table manners. They want to be intelligent and articulate, and nobody wants to be an ignorant jerk.
Yeah.
So they're like, wow, this guy cares about us. He's appreciating what our nature is. He's not, trying to make us into the Salvation Army here. But yet, and he's really doing a wonderful thing. And the fact that he's taken away from them, they're not having that. They're like, okay, Dr. Jekyll's over, out comes Mr. Hyde. And they're going to go after everybody, the sheriff in the town who's corrupt, and everybody, they're going to get them. And so they become deputized. So now they're the lawmen. So they're doing this under the color of law until they go completely berserk and kill everybody. And, they cross the line.
Yeah. And it's really Emilio Estevez as William Bonney, right? And I think he does a really good job. Like, whether or not it's historically accurate or whatever, I don't know. And I'm not worried about that. I'm enjoying the movie. I've heard that some criticism on it. I'm just watching the movie, so I take what the movie gives me. But I think Emilio does a really great job of like playing this kind of unhinged character who he likes to kill people.
That's his answer for everything.
That's the thrill. He's really into it.
He even says it in the movie. He goes, your heart rate goes up. He goes, that's you're alive. You're alive. And he'll stand toe to toe.
Yeah.
He's not hiding behind cover.
Right.
He's like, let's run straight at him with two guns blazing,
Yeah. And the rest of his, buddies are not really quite on board with that, but then they're all, pulled in. They're doing this together, and now they're kind of sucked into this. And I think once Charlie Sheen
you were supposed to talk to him. I did talk to him.
Well, yeah, I feel like the other ones, it takes them a while to come around. And I think it's once Dick Brewer, Charlie Sheen, ends up getting whacked, which was a surprise.
Yeah. You thought Brian Keith was dead.
Yeah.
There's no way he's in a flimsy outhouse building.
Yeah.
And they poured, and those rifles, they go right through a building through both sides.
Yeah.
So how he survived as long as he did in there.
But yeah, that kind of gets everyone else to turn a little bit more at that point. Right. And they're kind of, stuck now. They're the outlaws. When he's killed,
it unifies the rest of the group, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And then they just kind of have to go with the fact that now they are, in fact, the outlaws. And I love kind of the take when they're reading the newspapers about it, and it's just getting all this stuff wrong about them.
Bill, like, I'm not left-handed.
I'm not left-handed. I'm not this. I'm not that. Like, this didn't happen this way. It's like pretty funny and interesting. And yeah, I think the Chavez character, Lou Diamond Phillips, I wish they did a little more with him, because I think he's a interesting kind of piece of the group,
Well, he gave them the peyote experience.
Yeah.
Right. He made the psychedelic drink, and they all drank it, and they all started, contemplating their hand, and
yeah.
Hey, that's real.
Right.
That's real. That was sort of a fun part of the movie that actually could have been cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one part I think did drag a little bit too long. I'm like, all right, I get it. They're all tripping. Let's go.
They had the exact same scene in Easy Rider. When they're trying to go to Florida on the motorcycle. They go into Louisiana, and they have the psychedelic experience there, and play the Steppenwolf songs and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just there are multiple movies with that where it seems like a psychedelic experience is never really part of the story in every story, but it seems like everybody has one. But he did do that, and he did decide to leave the group, but he couldn't. He came back, and they're happy and proud of that.
Yeah.
And of course, just like in the Magnificent Seven, he's the knife fighter, right? He's throwing the knives at everybody. They always have that guy. So a lot of Western cliches in there.
Yeah. And I do appreciate that even among their group. It's like Dermot Mulroney, who plays Dirty Steve, who I like. I think he's maybe a little underappreciated as an actor. I never realized he was one of the guys in this movie because he's always chewing on the the tobacco or whatever.
He was the real hillbilly.
This grimy look, and that even among their group and they're working together, that he still has. And I imagine this is pretty authentic. Like he's got those racist tendencies towards Chavez all throughout the movie. And I like that they can work together and they can be buds, but that's still brewing inside him.
Right.
And there is that great moment when they're at the house and kind of the final showdown, and he tells them like, you know what, man, it's been like great riding with you and all, because they might die. And he tells them like, you know, we're pals, we're buds regardless of all that. But then when he thinks that he's abandoned him and he's like saying all this racist stuff, I knew it.
Indian, Mexican,
yeah. So, all mad. But I like
then
that
he comes back. It's like, all right, he's back. That's our guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. People are real hypocrites, aren't they?
Yeah.
Great. He was the racist hypocrite in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting that Brian Keith showed up. He was the bounty hunter. And that's when I said I was saying stuff right along when he says, let's dance, right? So here's a guy in a wide open field facing 6 guys who are armed, who are killers. And he's got the rifle and he says, hey, I came to get you all. And let's do it. You know, let's dance, right? And he starts shooting and he holds them off.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, they run for cover and stuff, even though they're bloodthirsty maniacs. They're like, this guy. And how he lasts as long as he does is spectacular. And then even Billy the Kid, you know, he goes, I got to get him. I'll get him. He goes in and he goes, I'm not going to get him now.
Yeah.
He goes, we will get him. You know?
And yeah, that's an interesting scene, the way that plays out. And it's someone who like, I don't know if has a death wish is the right word, but someone who's not afraid, who this is what I do. And this is how we roll. And we can be out in the open and I'm here to get you and I'm going to do it. And I might not make it, but that's what it is. It's very matter of fact. And the fact that they knew
that's
who we
a
like.
big bet, boy.
Yeah, right. And they've heard the name. So even they're like, oh, you're this person. And you can tell there's a moment where they're
a
little fearful. Yeah. They're like, oh, okay, this guy.
Do you know who we're
this
up
guy
against?
has a kill count. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, just that whole attitude, just gets down on his knee and, you know.
Yeah, well, that's the cool thing, that he drops to the ground like that and makes his target small.
Yeah.
Right, so they're aiming for his chest and now he's gone, right? Yeah. And he knows to do that. When people do that, they've done it before. You know, and you know from your own training that, you know, turn yourself to the side, right? You don't shoot like this, you shoot like this, right? You make your target as small as you can. Yeah. So your center mass.
I think one of my favorite lines in the movie too is after Charlie gets married and, you know, they're telling him like, hey, just stay. You have a wife now. Then this is getting into the big final showdown. And he just says, it's such a good line. I don't know. It just really hit me it's not easy having pals.
Yeah,
I just love that. I love that. You know, I don't know, man. There's just the camaraderie and loyalty and friendship and all that just really does it for me in those moments. It's not easy having pals. And then he rides with them.
Are you missed it up a little? Are you missed it up over there?
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Ah, so nice.
I learned too, like one of my former coworkers used to have a tattoo and it was a gravestone, gravestone, and it said pals on it. And I never knew what it was referencing. And then at the end of the movie, they talk about you know, Kiefer Sutherland's narrating and it's like, you know, we don't know what happened to these people and Billy got shot in the dark by Pat Garrett, but no one was really
terrible.
And
right. And that did happen in real life. Pat Garrett. And he even said, are you my friend? And he had his back turned to him. He said, Pat, are you my friend? Pat Garrett said, yes, I am. And then eventually, you know, because he respected Pat Garrett, and he kind of held him in high regard. And I think that he was, murdered by Pat Garrett.
Yeah.
I mean, he murdered Billy the Kid. It was no loss to society in general, but that was the case. And it's great to bring up that Kiefer Sutherland, he was enamored with a tiny Chinese girl who Jack Palance had as pretty much a slave.
Yeah.
A laundryman ruined his shirt, and he said, "Okay, in compensation, I'll take your daughter."
Mm-hmm.
And so he had this girl, and it was love at first sight for Kiefer Sutherland, Doc, right?
Yeah.
And he said, I got to get you out of here. And then it was so cool. He teaches her the word necessary. He says, it's necessary for me to do this. I can't live without you. And then when she comes to him, when they're going to be killed in this burned down house,
yeah, right.
she runs across the field, and Jack Palance is burned because his little whore, right? What a wrong word. She's a slave. I mean, she's chattel, right? She's his little thing that he owns runs to him and away from him. So he loses that battle. Even if everybody's dead, he's still in front of everybody. I'm her protector, Jack Palance said. And really, he's her rapist.
Right.
And he farms her out as well. So anyway, that's where the whore comment, but she was not one, but she was forced to, she was a slave, right?
Right. Yeah.
So she runs to him, and he said, why did you do this or something? She says, it was necessary. That was the word, like, you're the one that taught me this. She says, I have to die with you. That's necessary. I'm not dying with him. This is better. This is, and that's cool. So they had pals was a big word. And at the end, when these guys were buried side by side on Boot Hill, somebody went there in the secret in the dark, and they put a gravestone that said pals.
Yeah.
That's where the word pals was heavy. Right?
Yeah.
Somebody did that. So that had to be somebody in the know.
Yeah.
But it was great in the end that Kiefer Sutherland did manage to escape from an inescapable. I mean, there was 100 guys shooting a house that was on fire.
Right.
And they were in there. But how cool was it that they started throwing out all the stuff from the house, the chair, the sofa. Finally, they had this great big trunk. They threw a great big trunk out. And then as all these guys were shooting, all of a sudden the trunk opened. The Billy the Kid shooting everybody. Like, that was a great way to get him out of the house and into the battle. That's a wonderful surprise moment in the movie. But, these Western movies, this one was guilty of something that I find guilty of in all of them. And that is, you're still a human being. There's a certain amount of sanitation that's necessary. There's a certain amount of eating. There's a certain amount of, these guys all seem like immortal. They're in between the Rockies and the Sierra Nevada in the desert, like in Death Valley. They have no resources, yet they got these magnificent horses. Those things have to eat and drink. A horse can't not drink. It's not a camel, and none of that is shown. And it's kind of like Bruce Willis trapped in the building, yippee-yi-ki-yi or something like that. It's like, you can't go 3 days without sleeping or eating. Some of these like action things, the action.
Well, he was in the building for like an hour or a couple hours. That movie didn't take place over days. No, but I see what you're saying with this stuff.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of, like, you get an injury or something, and
I mean, and I get it, but that's the stuff that,
I mean, as Shane Schildmeyer would say, it's a movie.
Yeah, I don't necessarily need that scene, because then when I review the movie, I'm going to be like, the movie really slowed down when they showed me the part of them feeding the horses for 20 minutes.
Right, the guy was cooking the beans. So. It's just the scene. Everything is so like they have plenty of ammo, right? They're wasting ammo. Like, 100 rounds of ammo is a lot of weight, right? You're not carrying hundreds of rounds, even if you have like bandoliers or bullet belts or something, even that's a lot of weight. It's hard, and they're wasting ammo. I mean, they're out there shooting cans and throwing, and stuff like that, and you wouldn't do that. So that always kind of
Yeah. I remember mentioning that when we covered True Grit, and they're like throwing the biscuits and shooting them. I'm like, you're wasting your ammo, you're wasting your food.
Desert
it's like it does frustrate me a little bit that it's like you're too nonchalant about your
essentials
supplies here. Yeah. So I get that for sure. But
yeah, or they take some real heavy object and hang it on a horse, like
yeah.
It's like, well, he did these big bags of gold on there. That's not, it's a burden.
Yeah.
So, like I said, how Shane would say, it's a movie, and it's a long movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of characters, lots of twists and turns, lots of circumstances and situations. The thing that doesn't make it for me is these guys in the movie, it's called Young Guns.
Mm-hmm.
They're boys.
Mm-hmm.
They're not men. They're up against, Jack Palance, Brian Keith. Those
Mm-hmm.
guys are men, right, in the movie. But these guys they're like young, wise guys.
Yeah.
And in reality, they would just be taken out with a rifle at distance,
Mm-hmm.
by the army troops and stuff they
Mm-hmm.
are up against. That was a heavy scene. When they're in the house, they're going to fight like 100 guys as it is. And now the army shows up.
Right.
They're just like, holy mackerel. We're not getting out of here. But it was interesting, wasn't it, that Jack Palance wanted to murder them. He didn't want the army to do it. He was like, oh, we got it. We're going to do this ourselves.
Yeah.
He wanted to get them.
Mm-hmm.
But the army is like, nope, we're in you.
Yeah.
In fact, if you mess with us, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
And so he sort of had to suck that up.
Which I did learn today that apparently Tom Cruise is one of the random guys in the shootout.
Didn't you notice it when he got shot? Did you see it?
I read about it after, and I went back and looked up the scene. Yeah,
he's on a horse, I think, running at him.
They give him like a full mustache, everything, and
yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool just to show up on set and like, hey, just be one of the guys that gets shot. Real quick.
Well, look how hard it is to recognize him in Tropic Thunder.
Yeah,
Tom Cruise doesn't mind.
Oh yeah,
being in costume. He's got I think they do have a credit somewhere at the end.
Yeah,
but I didn't see it.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's not a name in the movie at all.
Yeah,
and it's just I think it would be fun to be that.
Yeah,
if I was a movie star, I would want to do like tiny cameos.
Stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah,
literally just be a random bad guy that gets shot in like one frame.
Just taking the ticket in the train.
Right.
That's why it's fun in Hitchcock movies. Because he's in all of them,
right?
To see which guy. Oh, he was the ticket guy at the train station or something. Like, here's your ticket. And he does that. But I liked it that the guy. Boy, I can't remember is it on the thing here? The director, the guy who wrote this, he had a real reverence for history.
John Fusco.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's it. John Fusco. He heard the story of Billy the Kid, and supposedly this is the closest to a true account. And I'm trying to think of the other. He was the one. He wrote the movie Crossroads, which is the Delta Blues.
Oh, okay, the one with Ralph Macchio you're telling me about.
Yeah, so he has a reverence for history. And it's kind of like Southern Western. So he found out about the Mississippi Delta Blues. Made the Crossroads thing. Then he found out about Billy the Kid, and he wanted to write a movie about Billy the Kid. All of these movies start somewhere.
Right.
There's always like a small script, and then it grows and grows, and somebody brings financing, and next thing you know, they're hiring good guys, and next thing you know, it's a studio's picking it up, and it becomes this incredible thing. But with John Fusco, it started very small. He wanted to write a Billy the Kid story. And he did started it that way, and it evolved into this. And I think that it's always good to keep that in mind when you're watching movies, that the finished movie is not the beginning of the movie. There's rewrites, different characters. They had all different people. I think they wanted Billy the Kid to be Sean Penn. I think it was original, it's how they wanted Lucille Ball to be in Gone with the Wind or something. The original Scarlett O'Hara. But yeah, they go through different actors come and go. They can't do it. They have a falling out that a different director comes in at some point or something.
A lot of that stuff goes on. Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting to know that and be aware when you see the final product. It's a giant compilation of a bunch of bizarre events, And this movie was like that.
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to go right for a movie to work. Like,
Right.
and let alone for it to be great, like The Godfather, the amount of things that had to just work out. And it's, to me, stuff like that is like fate, like meant to be.
I would have never, I
No.
would have never cast Al Pacino as Michael Corleone.
And the studio didn't want him. The studio did not want him.
But boy,
Yeah, they did not want him one bit, and it was Coppola that had to like fight for him.
right. He can do it.
And same with Brando. They didn't want Brando because he was trouble, and all kinds of
Well,
stuff.
that's that. That's,
But Pacino being like new, untested, and
But I'm really interested to hear your rating on Young Guns because you and I see it differently.
I mean, I think I'm still gonna go on this one.
We ought to write them down now because if go ahead,
I'm gonna go a 6.5
I'm going to kill you.
because
I was going to say 7.
Okay,
I was going to say 7. It's not a great Western. It is a great story, but it is a Western. It's sort of a weird hybrid. It's sort of like the West meets Animal House. You know what I mean?
No,
there's a
Sorry.
jocularity to there's a jocularity to it.
Yeah,
that's not Western.
just because I can't put my finger on it, but I kind of know what you mean. I don't know.
It's almost like a gang. You know what I mean? Like they're more like a modern gang more than a Western gang. Sort of like a, like Biker Boys beats the Old West or one of those kind of things. There's something there that there's a little gap in authenticity. Maybe it's because of the ensemble of actors. It is Young Guns.
Yeah, that's got to be the first thing that comes to my mind is just the ensemble fact with all of the guys.
And they all did great. There's nobody that wasn't like anybody didn't portray their part well or was miscast or anything. But there's just some incongruity in this movie that makes it not the Magnificent Seven. So
it does feel like it kind of fits in its own class somehow. But I've only seen it the one
time. It didn't have any notable music. Like there's no notable soundtrack.
Right.
There's nothing memorable that way or anything like that.
I recommend it though. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
I've seen it multiple times. I watched it just a few months ago, just one night.
Yeah.
I put on stuff that's light that I can fall asleep. It takes me 3 nights to get through, something like that.
I think it could be a good one for people, especially younger people that might not care for Westerns. This might be a good gateway Western movie, I think. I would suggest it as that, to get you in there if you're maybe not quite a fan of the genre, but you like some good action, some good characters, some brotherhood, then
it's plenty of fun.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that's a wrap on this one, everybody. Leave a comment, let us know what you think. If you've seen Young Guns, do you like it? And again, thank you, Laris and Many Goats, for the suggestion, and we'll see you all next time.